Welcome to episode number 323 of the Marine Layer podcast. It's our first free agent profile of the offseason, and we are looking at Japanese slugger Munetaka Murakami. Does he fit the Mariners? Does it make sense for the Mariners to sign him? We'll dive in and take a look at it.
Reminder to you guys, just make sure you're staying on top of all of our stuff because we'll be busy all offseason, and if you want to make sure you're doing that, everything's over at our website. That's marinelayerpod.com. You can find all of our episodes there. If you're listening, please go download and rate and review 5 stars. Same thing if you're on YouTube, although that version of it would be hitting subscribe and leaving a like and dropping a comment. All that stuff really does help big time. It supports the channel. You can also find our merch and our Patreon over at our website. We love seeing people rock the merch. And then you can find us all across social media as well at Marine Layer Pod.
Let's get it rolling.
The pitch from Acevedo. A drive deep to right field. Down the line. The Mariners win this game 2-1. The dream lives. They're going to the playoffs. One run from Jansen. There you go. Left field. We got a tie ball game. Julio. Oh, baby, what a moment. Tie ball game at 7-7.
And I welcome you to this episode of the Marine Layer podcast, part of the Just Baseball Podcast Network. Recording here on Sunday evening, November 9th, and we're at the part of the offseason where things are slowing down a little bit, and the most interesting things kick up the Mariners fan base on a given day. Let's use today, Sunday, Lyle, as an example. I'm coming back from vacation today. I've, for the most part, been unplugged from the Mariners world for about 2 days. Not paying attention at all. We had a wonderful mailbag episode on Friday where we answered a range of questions. We answered one about Alex Rodriguez, or I guess we answered the question and made it about Alex Rodriguez. And Lyle decided to, for this afternoon on Sunday, post about it. Put the clip out there. Man, did I not realize how much people had to say about A-Rod.
How did you not realize? You've never seen this discourse before?
I have seen it. I told you, I was unplugged. So when I open my phone, I get back here home and we're getting ready for the episode. I'm like, out of all the things that we're going to get charged up about here on November 9th, this is it?
Again, I don't know how you're shocked. I've seen this topic come up so many times over the years. We've talked about it. And every time we do, we get people commenting about how much they despise A-Rod, which is ridiculous in my opinion. It's absurd. I understand, let me preface it with this, because I know we have a listener base of a wide range of ages. I understand that TJ and I are in our mid-20s, and we didn't get the full experience of having to endure A-Rod leaving after 2000. But it still feels like a little much after 25 years. People are still this mad and don't want anything to do with a guy that, again, I said it in the clip and I said it on Friday's pod. At his peak, you can very much argue is the best player this franchise has ever had. I mean,
people like being petty.
I don't know, man. It's just crazy. It's crazy to me that it's not just the fan base too, but it's the Mariners themselves. If you look up on the wall at the Mariners spring training complex in Peoria, out on the backfield, they have all these memorable Mariners that they have up on the wall, and it's all the guys you'd expect. There's Junior, there's Edgar, there's who else? I mean, everybody. I think Raul Ibanez is up there. Jamie Moyer's obviously up there. Jay Buhner's obviously up there. No A-Rod. You know what A-Rod did that none of those guys all did, or any Mariner ever has done? The man had 3 8-WAR seasons before he turned 25 years old. The absurdity of that is really not talked about enough. And whether you like him or not, it just feels like there's a piece of the Mariners story that is a massive, massive chapter that essentially gets boxed away by everybody. The franchise itself, the fans, and it doesn't make any sense because I understand people didn't like that he left, but he was amazing. He's, again, maybe the best player they've ever had.
Let me ask you something. Now that I've had a little bit more time to think about it, do we think it's more because he left or more because he cheated? Because he is the most famous and successful baseball player to get caught cheating and juicing.
Is he to get caught? Well,
get caught. Barry Bonds never got caught. He retired.
Roger Clemens never got caught. I guess Sammy Sosa Sammy Sosa corked his bat, so he's up there.
Juicing. I will say juicing. Because the downfall of A-Rod's legacy in Major League Baseball is the fact he juiced and he cheated. Who knows if he was cheating while he was a Mariner? He was definitely cheating while he was a Yankee. But that part honestly doesn't matter. The question is, so here's the scenario. Clearly there's people high up in the Mariners organization who don't like A-Rod and still don't like A-Rod, and there's a lot of people who have been around the Mariners org or been in charge of the Mariners org since A-Rod was a Mariner. Like First Avenue Entertainment, who owns the Mariners, many of the heads of that, John Stanton, Chris Larson, a lot of these guys have been around since those A-Rod days. Someone or multiple people clearly hold a grudge against A-Rod for something. What is it, is the question. Is it because you don't want to put someone who essentially artificially inflated his stats because he juiced, or is it because he left? One of those, I will say one of those is a little bit more acceptable than the other.
Which one's more acceptable?
If it's more acceptable to keep him off there if he was juicing.
Okay.
Because it's like, here we go, young players. We have a player who juiced. Let's put him up there and set him as the example, as opposed to, oh, we don't like him because we're petty because he left. That's a little childish.
See,
let me add one more thing. Does Barry Bonds have his number retired in San Francisco?
So I'm glad we just got to this, because for a while there, we were on the lines of got caught cheating versus we assume he cheated. So now that we're on the topic of Barry Bonds, David Ortiz getting his number retired in Boston? Yes.
So Ortiz never got suspended, though.
No,
right?
But
remember
neither did Bonds.
But A-Rod did, very famously.
But now you're talking about, hey, Bonds' number's not retired. David Ortiz's number is going to be retired.
Okay, but we're talking about the most famous person ever who got caught and was suspended for cheating. There's no like that happened.
No, it happened, but I just don't care. You cannot tell the story of the Mariners without arguably the best shortstop to ever play the game.
And that's 100% right. But if they're keeping him off there because he cheated, I think it's a little more understood. I think both things can be true.
I don't even want to do this, and I don't want to get into this that much because I want to do nothing but shower praise on all these Mariners that everybody grew up loving. But, like, if we're going down this route, man, like, Nelson Cruz is beloved in this city.
Who is Nelson Cruz up on that poster?
No, but again, it's not like the org. Has he come back to throw a first pitch? Have they showered him with praises? You don't even necessarily have
that point is fair, right? But we're talking about earning your number retirement. Same example.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about just giving him his flowers. You don't have to retire number 3. I'm saying
Robinson Cano is a better baseball player than Nelson Cruz. Has he come back?
Not yet.
Will he come back?
Well, Cano should be appreciated and like, look, he was on 5 teams that didn't make the playoffs. I get it. Like, somewhat more than I would A-Rod. Cano wasn't that type of player. I mean, I would still shower Cano with a lot of deserved praise because he changed a lot of the culture in Seattle.
I'm just saying the Mariners haven't been inconsistent with this.
Again, Nelson Cruz has come back to throw first pitches and been around the team, and his number's not retired, but he's been honored. A-Rod's never gotten anything. I'm not saying retire 3. I'm saying he should be like showered with his flowers.
Different caliber of player, different legacy, different impact.
You're right. Nelson Cruz never had a 10-WAR season with the Mariners.
Exactly my point. But like, we're just talking about different tiers of players here when it comes to what you are accepting. Like Nelson Cruz has a very small chapter in Mariners history that the Mariners are able to accept and let him come back. But A-Rod, like, on top of the fact that people are petty he left, also is the most famous cheater.
Again, I don't, that doesn't do it for me. There's too many guys across the game that have juiced and taken steroids and still been absolutely beloved and honored and showered with praise by their respective franchises, regardless of all that. And A-Rod just kind of passed over. Again,
Sure.
the Mariners essentially act like he never existed, and fans act like he never existed here. The only thing they'll acknowledge that he existed for are the negative things.
What should the Mariners do?
You can do what you've done for other guys. You don't, even if you're not going to retire his number, why can't you have an A-Rod night? Why can't he throw out a first pitch? Why can't you do an A-Rod promotional giveaway? Something for a weekend that's about him, even if you're not going to retire his number. This all sparked because the question was, who would you put in the Mariners' Ring of Honor? And while the Mariners might not have a Ring of Honor, he's somebody who should be in their Ring of Honor. If you're not going to retire his number, okay. But he should be honored. That's what I think.
He should be in the Mariners Hall of Fame.
Yes. Yeah, there you go. 100%.
Yes.
The current manager of the Mariners had an 80 career WRC plus and is in the Team Hall of Fame. A 10-win player over a season and like a 35-win player over 6 years before he turned 25 should be in the Hall of Fame for the team. Like that's a perfect example. He should be in the Mariners Hall of Fame.
And that's fine. Again, I'm just saying the Mariners have been consistent because Nelson Cruz is not in the Mariners Hall of Fame. Robbie Cano is not in the Mariners Hall of Fame. And both those players are better than Dan Wilson was.
Okay, not yet is the key. I wouldn't be shocked if Nelly one day is in there. But again, they've still honored Nelly. They've still done promotional stuff for Nelly. They'll post about him on social media. Like, that's the other thing too. That's what I mean by it seems like he never existed, A-Rod. There's not a mention about him anywhere, at least that I've ever noticed. It's like they want to, fans and the team want to act like he never existed. And that's what bothers me. Because you had arguably the best shortstop in the history of baseball at his peak on your team, and it's like he was never there. That's what doesn't sit right. For a franchise that doesn't have a lot to celebrate, you should celebrate what was somebody performing at the top of their game and at the top of what baseball's ever seen at a position when he was with your team. Like, why can't he just be on the picture up at spring training?
Okay. I like that answer. I do.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily arguing against you. I'm merely just trying to provide another point from all this. Because the Mariners have had some cheaters in their history. And again, so Nelson Cruz, he's very easy to root for. He's universally liked in baseball. He's one of the nicest people ever. If you want to take the stats away, you want to take the cheating away, you want to take the fact that A-Rod left away, his personality while he was playing was also not the most embracing for people. And that is also a factor here.
It's been 25 years, man.
Again, I know, but I'm just telling you how it is. If you act that way, some people never forgive it. It's the same thing with Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds was an asshole when he played. And he still, to this day, does not get a fair shake because all the people who were in charge of putting him in the Hall of Fame, he treated like crap.
All I'm going to say is this. A-Rod was forced to make a very tough decision in his mid-20s where your prefrontal cortex is not even fully developed.
Well, big word for Lyle. Big word for Lyle.
Good. Some people would say I went to Harvard with words like that.
There's some people maybe some of our listeners will appreciate that I just mentioned that, and some will think that, Lyle. But me, I understand just how enormous this moment is. Anyway, go ahead.
Good. I hope you do. I didn't go to Arizona State.
What was your favorite subject in school?
I didn't go to Arizona State for nothing. It was recess, to answer your question. Now, as we move on here, prefrontal cortex was not fully developed. You had to make an incredibly tough decision. There's a lot of people in your ear. And by the way, the difference in contract offers, as you mentioned on Friday's podcast, was $162 million. I would encourage everybody who's got any vitriol towards A-Rod to stop and think about two things. Number one, if that contract was placed in front of you at either 25 years old or even right now, but especially when you were 25, the difference in those two contracts. Number one, is there a single one of you that's not taking it? I can personally tell you I'm taking this contract that A-Rod took 1 million out of 1 million times. Of course I am. And I'm guessing most of you are too. And number two, and I really want to hit this one home. What would the narrative be if that happened now? Not if it happened in 2000 like it did, post-2000. If it happened now. Because I'll tell you what, enough narratives have changed, probably for the right reasons, in baseball now, where if A-Rod were to do that today, The narrative is not A-Rod is selfish and hashtag Payrod and all these things. You know what the narrative is going to be. If A-Rod was presented a contract by the Mariners and a contract that was $162 million more by another franchise and took the latter, you know what the narrative would be in today's day and age had that happened now. That just didn't happen today. It happened 25 years ago.
What do we think is the best comparison for A-Rod that we can compare going forward? Like how the franchise handles this? Because given the PR perspective of Nelson Cruz, I don't know if that's fair. Why don't we measure how the Mariners in the future handle Robinson Cano versus handle A-Rod? Mind you, two infielders that played for the Yankees and were most famous when they played on the Yankees, and two players who were really, really, really good, and also two players who were suspended for PEDs.
Again, Robbie spent a little bit less time here. He didn't grow up in the org. He didn't come through the farm system, and he also never made the playoffs.
Okay, fine, but A-Rod's legacy is not playoffs anyways.
I'm just saying. He was a part of 3 different teams that made the playoffs.
Yeah, I guess, but I still think that's the best comparison. Like, if the Mariners in the future are giving out a Robinson Cano bobblehead, yes.
Well, again, Robinson Cano should not be ignored either. You know when all the competitive seasons started? When they signed Robinson Cano.
Sure.
2004 to 2013 was some of the most dogshit fucking baseball I've ever seen in my entire life from any franchise. Those 10 years were an abomination on every level. That changed when Robbie came to town. They won 87 games, and then there was high expectations, very high in 15, and yes, they missed the playoffs that year. Expectations were sky high. 16 almost made the playoffs. 17 were in the playoff race for a while. 18 won almost 90 games. Everything shifted when Robbie got here. So yes, I would not ignore what Robbie did here either, because he was a great player. He was still worth every bit of that contract. So yeah.
Again, everything you said can be right. But I understand from a Mariners perspective, you're not going to honor someone who got busted for PEDs while playing for you, while you paid him, mind you, $240 million.
Okay, but also, it's not like he's been shunned out of the game of baseball. He's all over the postseason. He's all over broadcasts. He's all over social media.
Now we're shifting back to A-Rod. We're talking Robbie Cano.
Well, I'm talking about A-Rod because that's the main focal point of this subject. A-Rod's all over the game of baseball. It's not like he's been shunned out of the game. It's the Mariners who choose not to really give him any honor, and the fan base who chooses they still want to shun him 25 years later for a contract that, again, I think every single person presented with that situation is taking the Rangers contract like A-Rod did.
Okay. Do you think the Texas Rangers should do the same thing?
Spent a lot less time there. But sure, you can honor him.
Not that much. Not that much.
It was a little less.
A-Rod's primary seasons, 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000.
Say A-Rod spent, that's what I thought. He spent 3 years in Texas. Not like the 6 in Seattle and coming up through the farm in Seattle.
He barely played 95.
I guess. I'm just saying, yes, I would honor A-Rod. Again, you have people in the Hall of Fame. I don't want to shun any name. I don't want to tarnish any names. But there's people in the Mariners Hall of Fame that don't even hold a candle to not just the career A-Rod had, but what he did in Seattle.
One season of what A-Rod did in Seattle.
No, more than one season.
I know, but I'm saying A-Rod was good enough for one season's worth of play to put him in the Mariners Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah.
That's essentially what I'm saying.
Correct, yeah. A-Rod with the Mariners, again, put up... Oh, I'm sorry, I sold him way short earlier. 38.1 wins above replacement. And that includes a 94 and 95 season where he combined to play 65 games total. Nobody's done what he did.
I guess we'll see in the future whether or not he gets forgiven.
Well, I'll tell you what. I have a new goal of this podcast, and I already told you what it is before we started, so I'll just tell everybody listening. I want to get A-Rod on. Is it an attainable goal? I don't know. Does it mean we can't try? No, we'll try. Because I think it would be a fascinating interview. I would be all for just getting to pick his brain about a lot of different things. I am all for A-Rod getting his flowers in Seattle. You don't have to have your number retired. You should be honored. You should be promoted. You should be in the Mariners Hall of Fame.
Okay. Well, I think that's a good note to end this conversation on. We do have, speaking of controversial middle infielders, just infielders, we have another one we need to talk about. Our first free agent profile of this offseason is none other than Munetaka Murakami. Talk about a very polarizing prospect to come over to Major League Baseball and potentially play. He was posted earlier this weekend, so he is officially a free agent for Major League Baseball teams to go sign. When I say that name to you for the first time, how do you feel about the idea of him in a Seattle Mariners uniform?
You should have asked me this 2-3 years ago when I was over the moon about the guy. Now, if you ask me, I'll just be point blank here. I'm out. I would not get near Munetaka Murakami if I'm the Seattle Mariners.
The story with Murakami is that in 2022 was his breakout. At 22 years old, he had 56 home runs. He walked and struck out essentially at equal rates, about 20% of the time apiece. And he was as phenom gets. If he was a free agent that year and decided to come over to Major League Baseball, he would have had to make the league minimum, but you would have had all 30 teams in Major League Baseball clamoring for his services. But now that he's made it to age 25, he is essentially unrestricted, right? So he can sign for whatever amount he wants. It could be $200 million. It could be $80 million. Depends on what the market is. But the problem is in the 3 seasons he's had since then, his numbers have been good. They haven't been that good as he enters his free agency. The strikeout rate has gone up. The walk rate has gone down. There are some major concerns with how much he swings and misses. And he also doesn't play defense. It's a tough combo to sell. There's a big risk attached to Munetaka Murakami when he comes over. And I guess I'll save this point for a little bit because we need to dive into some of the details of this first. But for the Seattle Mariners specifically, they just can't afford as much risk with a player just based on how much they spend.
They can't. And the projections for him are all over the place. You've got CBS projecting that he could get up north of $120 million. You have Kylie McDaniel of ESPN who thinks it'll be on the lighter side, more like 5 years for $80 million. But no matter what, Munetaka Murakami is going to get paid. And it feels like the only teams that are really going to take a risk on that type of contract are the teams that do not have some limited budget, teams that are not afraid to take a big swing, and teams that can swallow a bad contract if it goes south. Who does that limit? Who does that limit Murakami's? Oh my God. Who does that limit his services to? The teams you'd expect. Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox, Mets, Phillies, maybe the Cubs. Yeah, teams like that. You know what would be hilarious? You know what would be hilarious? You know what would be the perfect team to sign this guy?
The A's.
Close, but I was going to say the Angels.
Oh, yeah. That would be perfect.
I mean, it would be so on brand, wouldn't it?
Well, hear me out. A low-pressure environment. I mean, it doesn't get more low pressure than that. I mean, you're playing in front of a bunch of retired people in Orange County with a team with zero expectations to win anything, knowing you might get paid the most money to go to the Angels.
I mean, I feel like low-key that could be a spot he lands.
And they could play him in the field for him to be terrible out there because they clearly don't care about putting the players in the best position at all.
No.
So, and I feel like Shohei could say, yeah, I enjoyed my time with the Angels.
Did he, though?
I think he did.
Did you see some of the camera shots they get of Shohei in that last year, how miserable he looked?
Shohei, though, is like a forgiving person, and I just don't think he'd be the one to like publicly trash on something.
Not publicly. What about when Munetaka Murakami asked him behind closed doors?
What if the Angels offer him like $180 million?
Well, then that may be where he winds up, and that's why I'm suggesting that could be a landing spot. In that case, the Mariners will get to see him a hell of a lot over the next 5 to 7 years. That'll feature a shit ton of strikeouts, and every now and then he's going to run into a few homers.
Here's some interesting tidbits about Munetaka Murakami. So the career season, if you want to go dial up Baseball Reference or Fangraphs and take a look at it for yourself, 2022 is the year you want to look at. That is the peak of Munetaka Murakami. But it's not really a good thing for international prospects, especially Asian players who need to get posted and come over here to peak 3 years before you become a free agent. Because then we have a whole lot more to scrutinize as he's heading to free agency. So this past season, he had to deal with some injuries. 56 games, he still had, Lyle, we talk about regression. This past season, he still had a 210 WRC+.
Yeah.
Let's not fool people into thinking he sucks, because he does not suck.
No.
The ceiling of this guy might be higher than any prospect that has come over from Japan from an offensive perspective. Now, keyword is might. Keyword is might. Can I emphasize this again? Keyword is might. Shohei Ohtani has proven that you can be a good hitter in NPB and come over to Major League Baseball and be historic. Always possible. Murakami had better numbers in Japan than Ohtani did. You can start there. But the strikeout rate after being 21% in his 2022 season where he hit 56 home runs, it has now creeped up closer to 30% in NPB. Not in Major League Baseball, in NPB, which is a level down from MLB. If he's going to strike out that much in Japan, how much is he going to strike out in MLB?
So I'm glad you asked that, because there's a couple players that you can look at to try to draw a comparison to. I would say over the last 5 years, and you can really argue even more stretched out time than that, the two biggest name bats to come over to the U.S. from Japan are Seiya Suzuki and now Munetaka Murakami. Seiya Suzuki was a star in Japan. 30-plus home run seasons. WRC plus was through the roof. He was one of the best hitters in the entire country. Seiya Suzuki, when he was in Japan, for the most part, his strikeout rate stayed between 12 and 15%. He did not punch out. His approach was very good. He would get on base a lot. He obviously did damage. Seiya Suzuki in Major League Baseball is a very good player. He was a borderline all-star this year. But his strikeout rate in the U.S., in Major League Baseball, has crept up from where it was 12 to 15% in Japan to now he strikes out anywhere between about 24 to 27% of the time, depending on the year. That's a 10 to 12% uptick in strikeout rate that a guy who kept his K rate really low in Japan is now seen in the States. That's a pretty big uptick. And that's happened with a handful of guys that have come over internationally, especially from Japan. It's not just Seiya Suzuki that's happened to. If Munetaka Murakami is punching out 30% of the time in Japan, in NPB, which is essentially AAA level competition, what happens when he comes stateside? I mean, is his strikeout rate going to jump up to 40%? Do I dare even say it could get even higher? Could it get to 45% in Major League Baseball if the increase is somewhat similar to what Seiya Suzuki saw? Because if you get up toward that level, I mean, you get up above 35%, that's almost borderline unplayable right there. I mean, you get to 40%, it is literally unplayable in Major League Baseball. It is unplayable. Yeah.
He'd be on the bench.
Yeah. I mean, and maybe in the minors.
Yeah. If his contract allows. Remember, he's not on that 6-year, international, amateur contract.
Right.
He would be getting a full contract. Some full contracts, you can't send someone down unless you DFA him.
Okay, so then he'd be on the bench.
Right. He would have the team would have to essentially eat his money and put him on the bench, I think, depending on the contract. The other concerning thing here is not just his strikeout rate, because the swing and miss is a problem, but there are ways to mitigate having a high strikeout rate. His walk rate has also gone down too, which is not a good thing. So if you're telling me you're chasing out of the zone probably a little bit more, so you're less disciplined and swinging and missing more, it's a bad combination to have. Let's talk about a positive here. If he makes even a semblance of contact in Major League, of consistent contact in Major League Baseball, he's going to hit 30 homers in a season. Like you could chalk it up as a first baseman or a DH. He's going to hit 30 bombs. And so for some teams, that might just be enough. Really. Look at what the Phillies have rolled out in their lineup the last half decade. He's literally their prototype. Can't play defense, but hits the shit out of the baseball.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and if the Phillies don't bring back Kyle Schwarber, that's probably a potential destination spot for him.
Mm-hmm. What is a number you would be comfortable signing Munetaka Murakami to?
I'm too scared of the strikeout rate. I really am. I think it just scares me off too much. I would give him... Man.
Like, there's a number that you would say yes at.
4 for 40?
Okay, yeah. So he's not signing in Seattle.
No, again, when you're punching out 30% of the time in Japan, unless he makes a sizable adjustment quickly, there is going to be a learning curve, and it could be a very difficult transition for him. That is just a strikeout rate that is going to scare teams off. If you want to even dig further than that and wonder about, is there anything that went into that strikeout rate that could have been a little bit fluky? Again, could it have been injuries? Could it have been the fact that his team over in NPB was not very good, and which it wasn't? And as a result, again, maybe he wasn't all that motivated. That I don't know. But the point being, I'm asking the question, could there be reasons behind his strikeout rate climbing up? Could you see it downtick when he gets to the major leagues? It's not just the strikeout rate. It is the way in which he is struck out and his lack of contact with the baseball. So our friend James Schiano, who does the Metsed Up podcast with Giraffe Neck Mark, who we've had on the podcast multiple times, he tweeted this out this weekend. Munetaka Murakami has an .095 batting average against pitches that are 93 miles an hour and above. Sorry, you know what? Let me do that one more time. Murakami had an .095 batting average against pitches 93 miles an hour or above in NPB in 2025. That is a really tough pill to swallow. If you remember a couple episodes ago on a previous mailbag, maybe a week and a half ago, we got asked the question about Kazuma Okamoto, who's also a corner infield bat with some power that's going to come over from Japan this year. And we talked about where his numbers fall off a cliff, and that's when the velo goes up. I think Okamoto is a safer play than Murakami is because the strikeout rate's a little less severe. He walks a little bit more, and he's not going to cost as much money. He is not the name brand player that Murakami is. But an .095 batting average against pitches 93 and above.
I get the concern. There is probably still some development to go on there. As we said with Okamoto, these guys just don't face that kind of velocity. How are you expected to be good against something you never see? Like, it could end up being that in the future, he's still bad against it and did not develop when he got high exposure against high velocity. But when he's playing an NPB, I would say that's not the number you're going to circle and say, no, that's why we don't want to sign a hitter. Maybe your concern should be, I don't want somebody like regressing at age 25. That's what I don't want.
Can I make one more point?
Sure.
So his actual contact rate against pitches 93 and above was about 63%. That is not high. That's not a great contact rate. And if you look at his what's essentially Savant page, because somebody does have that on Twitter, they posted it. Saris quote tweeted it earlier today, and it's from I want to make sure I get it right.
It was the Yaku Cosmopolitan.
Yeah, the Yaku Cosmopolitan, who covers a bunch of baseball over in MPB. Munetaka Murakami, this past season, his overall in-zone contact, first percentile. First percentile.
It's bad. And that's not just 93, that's overall.
Yeah, and you know what part of that has to do with, which gets me to my second point. While his contact rate against good heaters was not good, then you look what he did against secondaries, and oh boy, he had a 50% contact rate against secondary pitches this year. That was written up by Eric Longenhagen on Fangraphs. Now, how do you swallow that? You're swinging and missing half the time against non-fastballs?
You offset that by him, when he makes contact, the ball is either a double or a home run.
Here's how I basically put it on Brock and Salk, because maybe I haven't done a good job selling it so far through this episode. But the truth is, I was this massive Murakami fan for, 4 years now. A couple of my friends and I started talking about him all the way back in 21. Back in 21, that was when he really broke out. Now, that wasn't 56 homers, but 21, he OPS nearly 1,000. He hit 40 homers, and you're like, man, you don't usually get sluggers like this from Japan. Then he hit 56 the next year, and then he hit the massive homer in the championship game of the World Baseball Classic against the U.S. And you're like, I mean, could this guy come over and win an MVP in Major League Baseball? Could he be that good? Could he change an offense? That's what I was dreaming on back then. I basically say now that I think I'm in love with Munetaka Murakami as a baseball player and fascinated by him the same way I am with Anthony Richardson in the NFL. And maybe not everybody's heard this, but I basically will not ever give up on Anthony Richardson. And it may be dumb, but I will never give up on that guy, because you just look at him and say, if everything clicked for him one day at some point, he's Josh Allen. He can throw the football basically out of a stadium. He runs like no other. He's 6'3", 6'4", built like a tight end, has ridiculous speed. It's like, I will not give up on this guy. He has a chance to be a superstar if it ever clicks. And then you'll have all these people tell you, well, Lyle, he doesn't process well. His accuracy's awful. He's unplayable at times in the NFL. It's like, I get it, but I'll never give up on him. That's kind of what I'm like with Murakami. It's like, I understand this guy could win an MVP. I understand he could come stateside and hit 50 homers. I understand it's tantalizing power. But I'm trying to use more of a logical brain here and say there are too many red flags to sign up for a potential $100 million contract on somebody who's totally unproven.
Can I read you two sets of numbers? 65 games, 165 WRC plus, 31% chase rate, 74% in-zone contact. That's set number one. Set number two, 56 games, 208 WRC plus, 29% chase, 72.6% zone contact percentage. Those sound similar enough?
Yeah, enough. I think I know where you're going.
Set number two, you might recognize, was Murakami. Set number one was Shohei's last year before he came to MLB.
Yeah, and the Yaku Cosmopolitan tweeted this out today too, which was fascinating to see. Remember all those Shohei quotes that came out early on when he came stateside, especially early in spring training, which looks so ridiculous now. People saying, oh, this guy's a high school hitter. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
That was a real thing. And Shohei made adjustments, obviously. He stopped the big leg kick, he developed the toe tap, and things clicked for him.
And it took him 4 years to be the offensive player he is now in MLB.
To be fair, in 18 and 19, he was still good. He just wasn't, Shohei Ohtani. He was this, he's a DH who's hitting pretty well.
And Murakami could still be good, but good for him could be a 34% strikeout rate and 30 bombs or 25 bombs, right? That could be his version of good until he makes it to year 4 and it finally really clicks. But comparing anyone to Shohei Ohtani is a little bit unfair because Ohtani also can provide value with his base running. He could provide value. If he wasn't pitching, he could be a really good fielder. But he happens to pitch as well, and he's a top 15 pitcher in baseball when he's healthy. Those are some pretty good things to offset. Murakami doesn't have a single one of those things.
And when Shohei came over, after that season that you just read off, he got that league minimum contract. All 30 teams were interested. It was totally risk-free. Shohei Ohtani made the league minimum for the first 3 years until he started to hit arbitration. You didn't have to pay him guaranteed, crazy guaranteed money. Murakami's going to get paid. He's not going to come over here and get 3 years for $5 million, for example. Somebody's going to give him real money. And I just don't know if the Mariners have enough resources to allocate a big chunk of that to Munetaka Murakami for what is going to be a very, very sizable risk.
Mm. Ask yourself this. Josh Naylor at $90 million or Munetaka Murakami at $90 million. It's like the easiest answer of all time.
It's not close.
Yeah. And the Mariners would tell you the same thing.
Yeah, it's Josh Naylor.
So, the Yaku, I believe it is, Cosmopolitan had one more good thing I wanted to bring to people's eyes when thinking about this. they did a worst case scenario, middle case scenario, best case scenario on Murakami. So consider this. There's not a percentage on which one is more likely to hit, but this is sort of a rough draft of this. A couple of the worst case scenarios is Christopher Morel and Jack Sawinski. And what is their biggest problem, Lyle?
Oh, they strike out like no other.
And as we guessed, Murakami's strikeout rate could be higher given how much he was striking out in Japan. Those guys, it's 32 to 35, maybe 36, 37%. It's high. It's about as high as it gets in baseball. The middle percentile, which is the most likely outcome, 50th percentile, Joey Gallo, who we've talked about a lot, Pedro Alvarez, and Chris Davis. And you said you really liked the Pedro Alvarez comp.
Yeah, that one feels like it's a decent comparison, and maybe Chris Davis is too, but Alvarez, because he was so all or nothing, a corner infielder who couldn't play defense and would strike out a ton, that one actually feels like it's pretty good. It's pretty spot on. I don't know if Munetaka Murakami will hit 53 homers like Chris Davis did in Major League Baseball. He could. Let's be clear. His left-handed power is considered 70 to 80 grade. That's the type of raw power he has. Tantalizing traits. But Pedro Alvarez feels like a more realistic comparison for who his outcome could be at the 50th percentile, especially because Joey Gallo is too good of an athlete to compare Murakami to him. Murakami's not going to be the athlete that Joey Gallo was, where Alvarez and Murakami have a lot of similarities. Left-handed power, a lot of strikeout, not really a lot of defense. Yeah, that checks out.
And the best case scenario was Max Muncy, Rafael Devers, and Matt Olson, which are very good players. This is not to say that Murakami can't hit his 100th percentile outcome. Always possible. But there needs to be development here. Yeah. Right. There needs to be development. And you did mention before, right? The 3 seasons after he had his breakout 2022 season, his team wasn't very good. And hypothetically, what if he wasn't motivated to play well in those teams? And he's just looking forward to coming to MLB and making a lot more money. Understandable. But would you want someone who treats a season like that? Again, I'm not saying this is how he acts. I have no idea. Lyle and I have zero information on this. I'm just purely throwing a hypothetical out there. No, right? What if the Colorado Rockies, who love to waste money, throw him the Chris Bryant contract, and they're not very good? They don't have any hope.
Again, that's why I think he's a perfect angel.
I hope he's not an angel. I hope he goes somewhere that actually, wants to develop.
Yeah, because again, if it all works out for him, it could be a really fun player. I just don't think the Mariners have the resources to take the risk here, unfortunately. Unless they decided they were just going to open up their budget like crazy. And even if they did that, I feel like they would use it on guys probably not named Munetaka Murakami.
Josh Naylor.
Yeah. So Chris Davis, for example, I don't know if people remember that crazy 0 for 50-something stretch that he had to start the year in 2018. That was one of the worst seasons ever played by a player. That year, Chris Davis, by Baseball Reference, put up negative 3.3 WAR. I don't even know how that's possible, but that's a real number. He actually lost the team nearly 3.5 games on his own.
Well, most players get cut, but first of all, the Orioles weren't good, so they weren't trying to win games. But he was also making a shit ton of money.
Right. So that year, Chris Davis in that season was striking out 36.8% of the time, which is crazy high. Again, that's where it gets to the level where you're unplayable in baseball. If Murakami's striking out 30% of the time in Japan right now, is it crazy to say he could see a 5 to 7% increase in K rate coming from NPB to MLB? No, I don't think it's crazy at all. It could be more than that. And if that's what happened to Chris Davis, who was already an established power threat in Major League Baseball, this is a lottery ticket of all lottery tickets. If it somehow works to the 100th percentile, there's going to be a team that makes it out like a bandit and looks like the smartest people on earth. But if it crashes and burns, it's going to crash and burn hard.
But the other side of Chris Davis is that he hit 53 homers in a season.
Right? And Chris Davis, again, perfect example of when it works, you love that guy. And when it doesn't, you don't want to watch a single at bat ever.
We'll see. Lyle and I just have come to the conclusion that we don't think it's going to be the Mariners that are in on this. They probably have a number, right, where they would listen. I think there would have to be a couple things that hadn't have worked out for them. Josh Naylor is like primo example number one. They're not even going to pick up the phone and call about Murakami until they know an answer from Josh Naylor.
And even if they have their answer, I think they would call about Okamoto before they call about Murakami, because a little safer, like there's still risk there. We talked about it. Maybe we'll dive into him more in the offseason, but he's going to cost less.
And he's older, and Okamoto the last 3 seasons combined has been better at the plate than Murakami has. Mm-hmm. The difference is Murakami's entering his age 26 season. You'd think there is still room to grow there as a baseball player, while Okamoto's over the age of 30. It's like, no. Like, there's not really much more room to grow there. So, that's what you have to weigh with stuff like this. The guys that come over internationally are not sure things. Shohei Ohtani was not a sure thing. Frankly, no one pitched and hit successfully since Babe Ruth combined. So, but you never know.
He was risk-free because you didn't have to pay him the crazy money.
100% right, but you didn't know if he was going to be good or not.
Yeah. What would you feel comfortable giving Murakami for a contract? Because you asked me earlier, and I was trying to think about it, and my best answer was something like 4 for $40. But what's yours?
5 for $70.
That's not that different than what Kylie McDaniel said he'd get, which is 5 for $80.
Math-wise, that's $14 million? Is that $14 million?
About. Now, are you still bringing back Naylor and signing Murakami?
So that's $14 million. Well, so Naylor's number one. That doesn't change. Like, Josh Naylor's a better baseball player in 2026 than Munetaka Murakami is. It's a no doubt. Mariners could use a DH. Like, if they're not signing Jorge Polanco,
yeah.
Would you take Munetaka Murakami at $14 million or Jorge Polanco at $14 million?
I'd probably still say Polanco because it's going to be less years and you know more of who he is.
Just for next year, 100%. What about 5 years?
That's different. Polanco's not getting a 5-year deal.
And you're not signing Munetaka Murakami just for what he can do next year. You are, but you're thinking about the future as well.
You are, but the Mariners also need to win in 2026. I don't think they can afford a development project next year.
Can Munetaka Murakami put up a 110 WRC plus as a DH next year?
Might be quite the roundabout way of doing it, but I guess he can.
Based off of the playoff performance, all of us might get a little frustrated based on the strikeouts. I think people wanted to see the strikeouts go down, make a little bit more contact. Munetaka Murakami is not going to do that.
No.
I wouldn't say he's Ernie Clement.
No, I don't think he's Ernie Clement.
No.
Again, when the number that really has jumped out to me the most about all of this, even more so than hitting 095 against 93 miles an hour and above last year for Murakami, is the swinging and missing 50% of the time against secondaries. Contact rate of 50% against secondary offerings in Japan. What happens when teams stop throwing him fastballs? What happens when teams just straight up attack him with nothing but spin?
And it might be brutal, and he's going to have to get better at it, like Shohei did.
Yeah. I want to see him be really great. I just think it's going to have to be somewhere else. I don't think the Mariners can afford to take on this project. I just don't.
And I'm with you. It all gets solved. Funny. Keeps coming back to this point. If they sign Josh Naylor, most of the Mariners' offseason questions evaporate if they sign Josh Naylor.
Yeah, well, they should probably do that.
Well, at least, again, Justin Hollander came out and publicly said on day one of free agency, yep, he's our number one priority. So at least we have that to go off of.
Yeah, which is nice to hear. And again, I always say this, Hollander's very relatable. I think a lot of Mariners fans probably appreciated hearing that. It's like, yeah, we're as locked in on this as all the fans want us to be. They know how important he is. You can't guarantee anything because ultimately Josh gets to pick where he wants to go, but I think the Mariners are making it pretty clear how much they value him. So they're putting in the effort.
Yeah. Well, fun first profile. We've got many more of these to do as the offseason goes along. And soon enough, hopefully we have something to talk about that the Mariners have actually acquired instead of hypothetically acquired.
Yeah, that'd be great. I don't know when the ball is going to get rolling with this stuff because there hasn't really been anything yet. There hasn't been the first big move yet, and free agency just started. It's only a couple days old, but I never know when it's going to kick into high gear. I feel like as time's gone on, stuff starts happening later and later in baseball.
Murakami's got to sign by the 22nd of December, 5 p.m. Eastern, I believe. Everyone else, I mean, the winter meetings is usually a good start, especially to free agency. We could see trades this month, though. Remember when, the Mitch Haniger trade happened on Thanksgiving Eve, right?
Back in 16, yeah. And oftentimes, it could be different this year. We'll see. Oftentimes, the Mariners do like to get things done early. So they usually like to jump out ahead of it.
Do we think the Mariners are going to give us a happy Thanksgiving present? Because just transparency to everyone listening, Lyle and I will both be on vacation the entire week of Thanksgiving. And we're trying to plan out whether or not we're going to bring any recording equipment. And I do feel like if we make that hedge and then it's like, you get the pass and tweet, breaking. It's like, oh.
And it's something ridiculous, too. It's not like the Mariners traded for a bullpen arm. It's going to be... It's not even they re-signed Josh Naylor. That would be the weekend where they make some crazy move. They pull off a trade for Ronald Acuna that weekend.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
I think we're gonna do episodes that week. I think we're gonna still do one at least Monday and Wednesday. We may just, especially because that's Thanksgiving weekend and a lot of people are out anyway, do one less episode that week and leave Friday open, and then we'll be back to our normal Monday after that. But yeah, maybe just don't trade during Thanksgiving. Maybe just have your turkey, everybody.
Phones off at the table.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and cranberry sauce. I forgot about that. That too. No, it's amazing. Anyway, I think the winter meetings, you're right, is when things will really kick into high gear. Honestly, because of the window now of Murakami's posting and when he has to sign by, which is December 22nd, I wouldn't be totally shocked if he signed at the winter meetings.
See what the market is.
Yeah.
Because there is a gap in projections. Some people think he's going to get 120 to 150 million. And then some people like Kylie McDaniel think he's going to get below Josh Naylor's contract.
Mm-hmm. Well, Kylie also had Naylor making less than Murakami. So he projected Naylor to get 3 for 57.5, I want to say.
Kylie's really low on all these guys.
It's not being low on the players. I just think he doesn't think the contracts are going to be absurd.
Well, we need to see some signings to, I guess, make a good judgment on that.
Do I have that right on Naylor? Is it 57.5?
I think that sounds right. Like you're right.
No.
He was pretty.
Sorry, it's $17.5 million a year. 3 years, $52.5 million.
I mean, that would be the easiest yes of all time, but I don't think Josh Naylor's going to get a contract that low.
I guess we'll see.
Man. Unless, look, everyone could be saving up money for what could be an impending lockout next year's. That might make sense. But, yeah. I mean, Josh Naylor's a really good player, so he should get paid.
He'll probably get a little more than that. I certainly wouldn't be surprised if he gets a 4th year. But, yeah, Kylie's basically projecting he'd get, if another year's added on, 4 for 70. Also the easiest yes ever.
It'd be interesting, though, he gets less money per year than Christian Walker, and he's a better baseball player.
Right. And if you're his camp, you're probably going to argue that.
And Christian Walker was really old when he signed. Josh Naylor's not even 30.
Again, if you're Josh Naylor's agent, you are probably using those exact talking points. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be shocked. Which, by the way, speaking of impending lockouts, what a banner day for the game of baseball. I got to tell you before we wrap this up. I mean, you've got the 2 Guardians arms who seem like they're never going to pitch again, which is truly unbelievable. That
65 years in prison.
Well, that's the maximum, but it's incredible, really, that Emmanuel Clase decided to throw away what was legitimately on track to be a Hall of Fame career for what was basically $10,000, which he's making on the regular anyway, paired with, this report that comes out about basically one of Rob Manfred's puppets going up to Bryce Harper after he told Rob Manfred to get the fuck out of his clubhouse for talking about salary cap. One of his puppets and one of his yes men essentially going up to Harper and saying comments like that to the commissioner, how people end up in ditches. That's a real thing. That got reported this weekend. Apparently one of Rob Manfred's people went up to Harper after that whole altercation over the summer and said, this is how people end up in ditches. It's like, dude, are you serious? I really cannot stand everybody associated with the commissioner's office. It's absurd. Like, oh, boo-hoo, these players don't want to bow down to you. Shocker. And you have somebody that's very, very firm in his beliefs, and Bryce Harper, that's going to stand up to it. Yeah, he's not just going to give in.
Honestly, I thought the funniest story of the entire weekend was, maybe it's not the absurdity of the last thing you just mentioned, or the overall case of the Luis Ortiz, Emmanuel Clase case, which is crazy in of itself. Again, just the amount of money these guys were throwing away to make not that much. But it was the fact that I think it was Clase was the one who's supposed to throw an intentional ball, and someone still swung at it. So people were trying to go find who it was. And I think it was Cutter is King was like, oh my God, Anthony Volpe caused the ringleader to lose $5,000 because he swung at a shitty pitch.
Well, Cutter is King, I'm pretty sure, also listened to the audio of, it was Andy Pajes who swung at a bad pitch that Clase threw. And it got caught on the mic of Clase dropping an F-bomb. And now everybody's like, oh, that makes a little more sense now why you're mad that somebody swung.
It's just a crazy, like, you can't get inside of the mind of a player or the situation, or if there's like blackmail or anything involved, but geez, man. I mean, like, I said through 65 years, like, they could face up to 65 years in prison for this. Like, hardcore prison.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. Again, honestly, while that one has plenty of headlines today, I think people need to pay more attention. Well, I don't know about more, but people need to give some rightful attention to one of Rob Manfred's puppets telling Bryce Harper that this is how somebody ends up in a ditch. Dude, like, grow up. Like, do you actually think these players are going to bow down?
But also, it's just probably not the smart thing to say because it's just going to get reported.
And now it did.
Yep. Everyone's always got something up their sleeve. It's like, yeah, Bryce hears that. He can just sit on it until he's like, yeah, now it's time to throw everyone under the bus.
Yeah. I think we're going to hear a lot from Bryce Harper as this all goes on. I got to be real. I hope we do. Because...
Well, they get a whole season to play first. I don't think they're going to try and worry about it too much this year. But yeah, once the season ends in 2026, 100%.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, anyway, that just about wraps up this edition of the Marine Layer Podcast. You guys know the drill. If you want to listen to the full form podcast, you can do so wherever you get your audio pods. Make sure if you're listening to go download these episodes, rate and review. Please leave it 5 stars. It really does help the pod if you do. If you're on YouTube, same idea, except just go hit subscribe. It's right in front of you. You get notified whenever we're posting content. You can also drop a like on this video. Leave a comment. All of it helps. You can find everything on our website, marinelayerpod.com, from all of our merch to our Patreon. That's all over there. And then you can check us out across social media at Marine Layer Pod. That's TJ. I'm Lyle. As always, we thank you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.